welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Now, we want to focus on these genocidalists in the Obama regime. Obama himself, of course. Michelle Obama, what's her track record on health care? We pointed this out already last year. It's written up in Barack H. Obama, the unauthorized biography. She was, of course, the bouncer at the University of Chicago Hospital. She was a bouncer kicking out poor black people who wandered in from the nearby ghetto in Hyde Park, Chicago, Illinois, looking for care, going to the emergency room, ruining the bottom line for the University of Chicago. And Michelle and her staff were there to push them back, to let them wait 3 or 4 hours. If you looked poor, if you were poor and black and you walked into the University of Chicago emergency room at their hospital, they'd just let you sit there for 3 or 4 hours and see if you would go away. This was a PR job done by David Axelrod, and it was facilitated also through a collaborative, that is to say, a group of foundations and hucksters and operatives that had been set up by Michelle, from which she was also cashing in. So the idea was she was a bouncer. She was involved in patient dumping. She was driving out those poor black patients and telling them, go to the city hospital here, go to that other hospital, go to that shoddy little clinic back in the ghetto and expire there. So this is not encouraging. We've also got Senator Baucus of the Senate Finance Committee, corrupt, bought and paid for by private insurance companies. Don't expect anything good to come from him. But now let's look at Holdren. When we're talking genocide, we have to go to Special Assistant to the President in the White House, John P. Holdren, a genocidalist, a theoretician of genocide. And this can all be documented by a hefty tome that I have here in front of me. It's this monstrous book has been my constant study now for several days. It is called Ecoscience. Ecoscience, Population, Resources, and Environment. Written by John P. Holdren, then of the University of California, Berkeley, today Special Assistant to Obama for Science and Technology Policy. That makes him the head of the White House Office of Science and Technology and the head of the White House Council on Science and Technology. Holdren is, in effect, the science czar. I don't know if he's on the list of 32 czars, but that is, in effect, what he is. So John P. Holdren co-authors this book, Ecoscience, Population, Resources, and Environment, with Paul R. Ehrlich. This is the lunatic theoretician of the population bomb. Wrote the book, The Population Bomb, 1968, one of the opening salvos of the hysterical, irrationalist, radical ecology, extreme environmentalist, green fascist, tree hugger movement. So Paul R. Ehrlich of Stanford University, Ann H. Ehrlich, also of Stanford University. So, boy, what a congeries, birds of a feather. So John P. Holdren, this book published by W.H. Freeman of San Francisco, 1977. I have the third edition. First edition, 1970. Second edition, 1972. And then in honor of Jimmy Carter, they did the third edition, 1977. Now let's look at Holdren. We just heard Phil Berg say that we don't have standing when it comes to Obama's birth certificate. Oh, well, Holdren wants trees to have standing. Yes, indeed. He argues in favor of giving trees legal standing. In other words, under Holdren's view, the tree becomes a legal person, and the tree can sue you if you chop down the tree or if you deplete some kind of a habitat or some other environment. Now, this is absolute insanity. We are now in the realm of the crackpot Malthusians. Holdren and his co-authors, and I'll just say Holdren from now on, but when I say Holdren, Ehrlich, and Ehrlich, you get the idea. Holdren, in effect. He says, I'm a neo-Malthusian. I don't believe in the cornucopian or pro-growth point of view. He calls it cornucopianism or growthmanship or the pro-growth point of view. He doesn't like any of that. He says, I'm a neo-Malthusian. In other words, He's a follower of the bankrupt genocidal theory of Thomas Malthus, Parson Malthus, the main ideologue of the genocidal British Empire, under whose auspices the paupers in England were allowed to starve, and also all those people in India went down in famines. So this is the world of Holdren. He's a radical ecologist. He's an environmentalist extremist. He's a tree hugger. Again, he wants to make trees into people. The big thesis of the book is the one that he draws from the population bomb by Ehrlich, 1968. Now, the thesis of the book is that overpopulation is the main and practically the exclusive cause of poverty and of the so-called environmental crisis. Doubtful there even is one, but the cause of poverty and the environmental crisis, according to Ehrlich, co-author with Holdren, is people, population. People are compared to a cancer. People pollute. People cause pollution. People are bad for the planet, and they are also bad for each other. So the big imperative of social policy, indeed the only goal of social policy really that Holdren can recognize, is to stop population growth and to roll back population. How could it be done? Well, and what kind of numbers are we talking about? He quotes a theoretician. He approvingly quotes. This is a textbook, but you can see what he likes and what he doesn't like. By a guy called Hewlett, H-U-L-E-T-T. Hewlett in the 70s said that the optimum population of planet Earth is 1 billion. So Holdren notes in 1977, wait a minute, we've already got 4 billion, 1977. That means 3 billion excess. In effect, 3 billion useless eaters. So the program of Holdren in 1977 is to eliminate, through some means, 75% of the world's population, some 3 billion people. Now, today, we've got a world population of over 6 billion. One of Holdren's favorite authors that he cites in a number of his books includes writings by this guy in some of the anthologies that Holdren has edited, is Professor David Pimentel, I believe still of Cornell, who says, yes, the optimum population of the Earth is between 1 and 2 billion. So that means today we've got a 4 to 5 billion overhang that has to be eliminated. Naturally, cap and trade, by doubling or more the price of U.S. grain exports and thereby radically increasing the price of grain around the world, that would allow you to kill off, in effect, a large part of the 1 billion people in the world that would be considered by the United Nations to be hungry and on the verge of starvation. So they're pushing ahead with cap and trade as a genocidalist measure. And the big thing with Holdren 30 years ago in his textbook is what he wants to do above all is stop the economic development of the third world. Stop China, India, Brazil, Indonesia, South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt. Stop them in their tracks and prevent them from developing. Don't let them imitate the living standard of the United States and Europe. Now, of course, it's crackpot theory because the best way to slow population growth is to promote prosperity, get more people in the middle class, more educated women, and this more or less takes care of itself. But not for crackpots and genocidalists like Holdren. He talks about triage for the less developed countries. Who should be triaged? India and Bangladesh. That's 1 billion people right there at the time that he's writing. We'll be back in a minute.